In the Pacific, night was never an ally, it was a thief. Stealing sleep from the exhausted, amplifying every rustle into ambush. By mid-1943, the sun-scorched days bled into these velvet voids, where Japanese bombers, ghosts in the gloom, slipped in like thieves through unlocked doors. They called them milk runs at first, harmless harassment, pinprick raids on supply dumps, fuel caches, foxholes where Marines finally dared to dream. But dreams turned to nightmares. On the night of August 7th, one such raid found the 1st Marine Division not harassing, but hunting. Betty bombers, squat and silver-bellied, droned in low over the slot, that narrow channel of turquoise death between Guadalcanal and Florida Island. No warning. No interceptors scrambling from Henderson Field. The lead Betty unloaded its payload, 500 pounds of high explosive, right into the heart of the bivouac area. Tents vaporized in orange blooms. Screams cut short by secondary blasts. 23 Marines gone, not in firefights or beach assaults, but in their sleep. Shrapnel-riddled canvas, their only armor. Command woke up then, or tried to. General Millard Harmon, Supreme Allied Commander in the Southwest Pacific, paced the war room in Brisbane, Australia. Maps pinned with red yarns snaked across the walls, Tarawa, Kwajalein, the endless leapfrog toward Tokyo. His aides hovered, coffee breath mingling with cigarette haze. "We need eyes in the dark," Harmon growled, jabbing a finger at the chart's shadowed sectors. "These bastards own the night. Our P-40s and P-38s, blind as bats after sunset." The response was a patchwork of desperation. Douglas P-70s, hastily converted A-20 attack bombers with jury-rigged radars, lifted off into the murk. British Beaufighters, loaned from the RAF, growled through the soup on loner runs. But the tech was raw, the crews greener than the jungle. Radars flickered like faulty Christmas lights. Intercepts turned to near misses, or worse, friendlies, lighting up on scopes, hearts pounding as triggers twitched. One P-70 crew mistook a Navy blimp for a Zero. The apology came in a court-martial. Morale cracked like dry earth under boot. Pilots whispered in the ready rooms, "The Japs have the stars on their side. We chase shadows, they drop death." Ground crews, hands blistered from wrenching props in the rain, started etching tallies on hangar walls. Not victories, but nights survived. The Pacific wasn't just an ocean anymore. It was a black maw, swallowing men whole. Half a world away in the fluorescent-lit drafting rooms of Northrop aircraft in Hawthorne, California, a different kind of storm brewed. Jack Northrop, lean, bespectacled with eyes like polished obsidian, hunched over blueprints that sprawled across tables like the veins of some mechanical leviathan. At 48, Northrop was no stranger to doubt. His all-wing bombers, radical dreams of flying wings, had been shelved by a military wedded to tradition. But this was personal. He'd seen the reports filtering in from the fronts, night raids claiming twice the daylight toll in some sectors. The Army Air Force's brass, ensconced in the Pentagon's daylight dogma, dismissed it. Night fighting? That's for the Brits and their fog, one general scoffed in a memo Northrop read by contraband copy. Our boys win wars in the sun. Northrop's pencil scratched against vellum, tracing curves that defied the sleek silver arrows of P-51 Mustangs. No single-engine daredevil here. His vision? A behemoth. Twin Pratt & Whitney R-2800s, each churning 2,000 horses, slung under wings that spanned 6 feet, wider than a B-25 bomber. Fuselage bloated with radar housings, a dorsal turret bristling .450 calibers, ventral barbettes for more. Weight? 15 tons on the ground, a lumbering giant that top speeded at just 366 miles per hour, slower than the fighters it was meant to hunt. "It's not a plane," Northrop muttered to his lead engineer, Vladimir Pavleka, over blueprints stained with midnight coffee. "It's a hunter, built for the void where speed means nothing and silence means everything." Pavleka nodded, but his brow furrowed. The specs screamed compromise. De-icing boots for high-altitude chill, pressurized cockpit for stratospheric stalks, and the radar, CR-720, a British hand-me-down wizardry that painted blips on a cathode tube like fireflies in fog. But the generals? They saw a flying barn. "Too big, too slow, too damn expensive," barked Brigadier General Oliver P. Eccles, head of production. In a test memo, he likened it to arming a whale to chase minnows. Budgets teetered, contracts wobbled. Northrop poured his own funds into mock-ups, prototypes pieced in secret hangars under blackout tarps. The inciting spark came not from blueprints, but blood. Guadalcanal's massacre reports hit Washington desks in September 1943. President Roosevelt, chain-smoking in the Oval, leaned on Hap Arnold, Army Air Force's chief. "Give me night," FDR rasped, "or the Pacific bleeds." Arnold, a hawk-nosed visionary scarred by his own WWII wounds, greenlit the project. XP-61 prototype rolled out in January 1942. Wait, no, first flight, May 26, 1942, under blackout skies over Muroc Dry Lake. Test pilot Bob Rodert banked it into the dusk, the airframe groaning like a waking beast. Ground crews held breath as the radar scope flickered to life, a green ghost in the glass. But doubt lingered like fog. Production lagged, only 18 airframes by D-Day. Crews trained in simulators that mimicked the dead wreck in isolation. Pilots blind flying on instruments, radar operators, often young mathematicians plucked from universities, tuning dials to echoes fainter than whispers. Gunners, strapped into turrets that spun like casino wheels, practiced on toad sleeves under Klieg lights. 3 men, 1 mind. The pilot, eyes on the horizon's void. The RO, ears on the pulse. The gunner, finger on fate. In the Pacific, the first Black Widows shipped out in June 1944, 6th Night Fighter Squadron, New Guinea, crated like coffins reassembled under palm-thatched hangars. Lieutenant Edward Hub Smith, a lanky Iowan with a physics degree, climbed into the cockpit of Moon Happy. His RO, Sergeant John Scarden, fiddled with the scope. Bogey at 2 o'clock low, skipper, 5 miles, closing fast. Smith's grip tightened on the yoke. The humid air cloyed inside his oxygen mask, misting the canopy. No stars tonight, monsoon veil. Engines thrummed low, props chewing darkness. This is madness, Smith thought, chasing phantoms in a flying truck. But the scope didn't lie. The Betty loomed, a silhouette against the radar's green glow. Smith eased throttles, the Widow's bulk slicing silent. No roar to betray, just the faint beep-beep of intercept. Range 1 mile, Scarden breathed into the throat mic. Static crackled like distant lightning. The gunner, Corporal Mike Mackey, swiveled the turret. Whir of servos, soft as a sigh. Fingers hovered over triggers. The Betty never saw it. A burst from the dorsal guns, tracers arcing like Firefly's revenge. The bomber's wings sheared, fuel igniting in a silent bloom far below. Debris rained into the slot, swallowed by waves. Smith circled once, the cockpit lit only by instrument ghosts. No cheers, no victory roll, just a log entry, engaged and destroyed, no visual confirmation. Word spread like contraband whiskey. Marines on the ground, waking to intact tents, chalked Widow's Grace on ammo crates. But command? Still skeptical. "One fluke," a colonel snorted in briefing. "Wait till the Zeros adapt." Northrop, back in California, read the cable by lamplight. His hand trembled. Not from cold, but vindication's chill. Night after night, the raids came and went. Black Widows prowled the approaches, radar eyes unblinking. Kills mounted, 2, 5 a dozen. No losses. The enemy pilots, once cocky in their nocturnal supremacy, radioed frantic queries. "What hunts us?" Tokyo's high command puzzled over maps dotted with question marks. American certainty that daylight relic began to fracture. In the war rooms, whispers turned to orders. More widows. Faster production. But the real shift was deeper, in the marrow of men who once feared the dark. Faith, fragile as a radar echo, took root. The Pacific's black ocean wasn't empty anymore. Night was no longer empty, it was watching. Jack Northrop wasn't born to chase ghosts. He was forged in the crash of the Great War's tail end. A boy in Kansas watching biplanes claw the sky over wheat fields, their struts singing like harp strings in the wind. By the 1930s, he'd tamed the air with designs that whispered rather than roared. The sleek N1M Jeep, an all-wing flyer that skimmed Moroc's salt flats like a skipped stone. But war's shadow lengthened. And with Pearl Harbor's thunder still echoing in December 1941, Northrop saw what the brass could not. Daylight was a stage for aces, P-40 Warhawks twisting in dogfight ballets over Wake Island. But night? Night was the orchestra pit, vast and unlit, where the real symphony of death played out. The request came shrouded in secrecy. Army Air Force's Specification Number 234, Interceptor for Nocturnal Operations. Northrop's office received it on a rainy Tuesday, the envelope sealed with wax that smelled faintly of gun oil. He read it alone, under a gooseneck lamp that threw his shadow long across the wall, a silhouette of a man wrestling angels. All weather, radar equipped, crew of 3. The specs were a laundry list of impossibilities. Detect at 5,000 yards, engage at 500, survive dives that would snap lesser wings. But buried in the fine print, the enemy owns the hours after dusk. Reclaim them. Northrop's mind ignited. He dabbled in radar, those clunky British sets, AI Mach 4, that turned Luftwaffe night raids into statistical probabilities over London. But America? Her radars were ground pounders. Yagi antennas spiking from coastal cliffs like defiant spines. Airborne, a pipe dream, dismissed by the same generals who fetishized the P-38 Lightning's dive breaks and 50 cal bursts. Night flying is for owls and fools, one memo quipped, penned by a staffer who'd never tasted the Pacific's midnight brine. We build for the dark, Northrop declared to his core team the next dawn, voices hoarse from all-night sketches. Not against it, with it. Vladimir Pavleka, his Czech-born right hand, nodded, tracing the radome's curve, a bulbous nose that would house the SCR-720, a 10-centimeter wavelength set borrowed from the RAF's playbook. It wasn't elegant, vacuum tubes the size of thermos bottles, antennas that could ice over at 25,000 feet, but it painted pictures in the black, blips blooming on plan position indicator scopes like bioluminescent prey. The revolution wasn't in the metal, it was in the marriage. Airframe to electronics, muscle to mind. Northrop's widow would be no solo virtuoso. Pilot forward throttles and yoke his scepter. Behind, the radar operator, RO, a navigator of nothingness, hunched over a console where green phosphor ghosts danced. Below, in the belly turret, the gunner, executioner with a panoramic view through plexiglass blisters, 450s in the dorsal castle, 2 more ventrally, all hydraulically slewing to the RO's whisper. 3 souls, symbiotically fused. No glory for the ace, victory for the ensemble. Production clashed with prophecy. The prototype's first rollout in Baltimore, Northrop's Baltimore plant, a hive of welders and rivet girls, drew sneers from inspectors. Looks like a pregnant bat, one muttered, kicking a landing gear strut. Weight ballooned to 16,400 pounds loaded. The R-2800 radials, air-cooled double wasps, guzzled avgas like parched marines. Climb rate, a leisurely 2,000 feet per minute, half a P-51's. Maneuverability, forgiven in the forgiving dark. But the generals prowled like wolves. General Hap Arnold toured the hangar in spring 1942, cigar chomping as he circled the mock-up. Northrop, this tub'll be target practice for any Zero with night vision goggles. Northrop met his gaze, unflinching. Sir, the Zero sees with eyes, we see with waves. Eyes close, waves don't. Arnold grunted, but the seed took. Contracts flowed, 100 by year's end, then 500. Factories hummed under the aircraft production board's lash, women in snoods riveting longerons, men in overalls tuning magnetos till their fingers blistered. The name stuck early, Black Widow, not for the spider's hourglass venom, but the silhouette, silvery wings veined with black dope, a maw that swallowed stars. First flight, May 26, 1942. Test pilot Bob Rodert lifted her from Baltimore's runway, the gear folding with a hydraulic sigh. Up they climbed, into a sky bruised purple by dusk. Rodert banked left, then right, the airframe stable as a table, wings flexing like prayer hands. At 10,000 feet, the RO keyed the set. A blip, a chase plane, P-38 trailing like a reluctant suitor. Contact, crackled the intercom. Lock on. The scope held, unwavering. But vision without venom was vanity. Armament trials followed in the Mojave's furnace. Turrets traversing under dummy loads, guns barking into backstops that shredded like rice paper. Gunners practiced in wind tunnels, compensating for recoil that could yaw the beast 5 degrees off axis. Northrop watched from a tower, binoculars fogging with his breath. This isn't flight, he thought. It's predation refined. Halfway across the world, the revolution demanded disciples. Training began in the black heart of Florida, Orlando Army Air Base, a sprawl of runways etched into swamp, where night fell like a guillotine. The 6th Night Fighter Squadron arrived in March 1943. Raw recruits, pilots poached from ferry commands, ROs from MIT's radar labs, gunners from anti-aircraft batteries. Lieutenant Herman Ernst, 26, crop-haired from Ohio farms, drew Moonhappy as his mount. A quiet man, Ernst preferred equations to boasts, his logbook brimmed with vectors, not victories. His RO, Tech Sergeant Ray Toth, was a Hungarian émigré with fingers like piano keys, tuning scopes to symphonic precision. Gunner, Private Eddie Ruiz, a Brooklyn kid whose steady hands had stitched seams on his mother's Singer. Their classroom, the dark. Simulators first, link trainers jury-rigged with radar mocks, cockpits sealed against light leaks. Ernst strapped in, the world reduced to gyro horizons and altimeters glowing crimson. Blindfold trust, the instructor barked. Your eyes lie, instruments don't. Hours blurred, stalls in simulated soup, recoveries from spins where the horizon spun like a drunkard's waltz. Ernst's palms slicked the yoke. Falling forever, he thought, stomach lurching as the needles danced betrayal. Then, the real void. Night sorties over the Everglades, props idling to whispers, climbing to 15,000 where the air thinned to knife edge. Toth's voice over the headset, calm as a librarian's. Bogey, 11 o'clock high, bearing 320, range 8 miles, aspect 90. Ernst adjusted trim, the widow's nose dipping like a bloodhound's. No visual, just faith in the beep, a sonar ping in the skull. Ruiz in the turret, sweat beading under his leather helmet, eyes straining through the gun sight's reticle. Fingers ghosted triggers, conditioned not to flinch. Mishaps honed them. One trainee clipped treetops on approach, shearing antennas like wheat. Another RO fixated on a ghost echo, weather clutter, and vectored his pilot into a thunderhead, lightning spidering the canopy. Ernst's first live intercept, a loned B-25, cooperative prey lumbering through the murk. Closing, Toth murmured, the scope's arc sweeping. Ernst feathered throttles, the engine's growl muted to a purr. At 1,000 yards, Ruiz squeezed, tracers stitching the bomber's tail, flares popping in orchestrated panic. No hit, but the lesson landed. Silence was the stalk, burst the strike. Doubt dogged the drills. Ground crews, wrenching radomes in the humid dark, grumbled of flying coffins. Brass from Washington flew in for demos, clipboards at ready. Show us the magic, one major sneered, puffing a pipe that fouled the hangar. Ernst taxied out, the widow's tires squelching mud. Up they went, into a sky sown with stars like shrapnel. Toth locked a prowling P-47, firing solution. Ruiz's guns chattered, brief, surgical. The thunderbolt jinked, but the message etched, seen, sized, spared. Word filtered back to Northrop via teletype. Trainees achieving 70% intercept rate under full blackout. He smiled in his office, the blueprints now production saints. Factories birthed widows by the month. P-61A models with de-icing boots for European chill, B variants with chin turrets for Pacific bite. Crews shipped, 422nd Squadron to England, 6th to New Guinea. Ernst's outfit crated up in summer 1943, the Pacific beckoning like a siren's abyss. In Brisbane's briefings, skepticism simmered. These eggheads think radar beats reflexes? A colonel scoffed, eyeing photos of the beast. But Northrop's cables arrived like missives from Delphi. The night is a domain, claim it with science, not swagger. Ernst, en route on a sweatbox Liberty ship, traced Moon Happy's silhouette on his bunk's bulkhead. We hunt what can't hunt back, he thought. The ocean rolled black beneath, indifferent. The revolution wasn't televised. It pulsed in cathode tubes, echoed in headsets, disciplined in the discipline of the unseen. Pilots learned to breathe with the engine's cadence, ROs to anticipate clutter like a chess master reads fights, gunners to fire not at shadows, but probabilities. No parades for these men, just the quiet accrual of competence, forged in hours where fear was the best teacher. By fall 1943, the first combat widows uncrated under New Guinea palms, their radomes glistening with dew. Crews like Ernst's taxied into the gloaming, props carving the humid veil. Tradition's grip loosened, finger by finger. The blind world had eyes now, cold, calculating, unerring. He didn't build a plane, he built a predator for a blind world. The first kill wasn't a thunderclap, it was a sigh. No dogfight spirals, no wingman cheers crackling over the RT. Just 3 men in a metal womb, suspended in the black, betting lives on a flicker of light. Ernst's squadron, the 6th NFS, had arrived in crates, reassembled under monsoon skies that wept rust on their fuselages. Nodzab was no Orlando playground. It was a fever dream of mud-slick revetments and Jap snipers rustling the perimeter wire. Briefings in canvas tents reeked of mildew and malaria pills. These Betties come low and late, Major Dale Smith, CO, rasped, pinning recon photos to a sagging board. Drop their eggs on the airstrip, vanish into the soup. Your job, don't let 'em. Skepticism clung like damp rot. Ground crews, Filipino laborers with machetes at their belts, eyed the widows like foreign gods, too big for the strip, too quiet for war. Yankee mosquito, one muttered, slapping at real ones swarming the hangars. Pilots from the daylight squadrons, P-38 jockeys with silk scarves and ace tallies, lounged in the officers' club, nursing warm cokes. Night fighters? More like night frights, one quipped, mimicking a lumbering bank. Laughter rippled, brittle as palm fronds. Ernst didn't join the jibes. He pored over weather charts by hurricane lamp, tracing isobars that promised cloud layers thick as boilerplate. The dark isn't chaos, he thought, pencil tracing vectors on graph paper. It's geometry. Angles and echoes. Toth, his RO, shared the faith. Night spent in the Quonset hut, tweaking the CR720 till it sang true. Clutter's the killer, Toth would say, voice a low rumble like idling radials. Rain squalls paint like squadrons. Learn the lie. Ruiz, the gunner, practiced dry fires in the turret mock-up, eyes closed, imagining the Betty's twin tails as reticle ghosts, fingers tightening on phantom triggers conditioned to the recoil's ghost kick. Discipline, not daring. Intellect over instinct. They flew patrols in pairs, orbiting the slot at 12,000 feet, where the air chilled to bone needle pricks and oxygen masks chafed like iron collars. The night chose them, July 17th, 1944. Dusk bled to pitch over the Bismarck Sea, stars smothered by stratus veils. Ground control's voice crackled in Ernst's headset, tinny urgent. Scramble Red 1, bogies inbound bearing 270, Angels 5, multiple contacts. Ernst keyed the mic, Red 1 airborne. Climbing. Throttles forward, the Widow surged, gear folding with a hydraulic whisper. Toth's console bloomed, multiple pips, erratic, weaving like minnows in current. 4 no, 5, Betty's skipper, escorted by Zeros, range 40 miles, closing 180 knots. The words landed flat, no drama. Just data. Ernst trimmed for cruise, the airframe settling into her lope, steady, unhurried. Below, the jungle canopy unrolled like black velvet, broken only by the phosphorescent wink of bioluminescent fungi. Skepticism curdled to tension as they climbed. Ernst's pulse synced to the radar's ping, beep, beep, faint as a watch tick in a tomb. Moist air beaded inside his mask, trickling cold down his neck. First blood or first bust, he thought, glancing at the rearview mirror where Toth's face glowed emerald. The RO's fingers danced over knobs, filtering chaff, a squall line cluttering the port quarter, ghosts dismissed with a gain twist. Ruiz, in his glass egg, swiveled slow, the turret's servos humming like a distant hive. Turret ready, he murmured into the intercom, voice muffled by the dome's echo. No bravado, just readiness, owned in Florida's blackouts. The formation sharpened on the scope, led Betty fat and low, her escorts fanning high, Zeros, needle-nosed phantoms with 20mm bite. Ernst vectored in, throttling back to match their plod. Silence amplified everything. The creak of struts in updraft, the faint ozone tang of the radar set warming. Lead at 10 o'clock low, 12 miles, Toth breathed. Escorts splitting, 2 climbing starboard. Ernst banked gentle, the Widow's wings slicing cloud wisps like a scalpel. No flares, no searchlights, just the stalk. Ground control faded to static. Up here, it was them against the void. Fear crept in then, not the hot flash of tracers, but the cold seep of doubt. What if the scope lied? What if a Zero slipped the net, its pilot's eyes adapting to the star-pricked dark? Ernst's grip whitened on the yoke. Breathe with the machine, he reminded himself, exhaling slow. Toth's voice cut the hush. Bogey breaking left, range 8, aspect 30. He's turning into us. The lead Betty, oblivious, droned on, her crew chatting over sake-warmed radios, plotting the Nodzab run. Japanese night doctrine was arrogance incarnate. Fly low, hug the waves, trust the moonless mercy. No radar ghosts in their cockpits, just compasses and courage. Closing, Toth said, the ping accelerating, beep, 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 like a heart in arrest. Ernst eased the nose down, the altimeter unwinding. 6,000 feet. 4,000. The air thickened, humid fingers pressing the canopy. Ruiz's breath fogged his sight. Visual? Negative, but I feel her. At 2 miles, Toth locked, solution green, fire when ready. Ernst held steady, the Widow a shadow among shadows. No engine roar to betray, just the slipstream's sigh. The Betty filled the reticle. A silver slug against the radar's ghost glow, her props a faint buzz like angry hornets. Ruiz's fingers tightened, click, the dorsal turret whirring to bear. 450s spat. Brief, disciplined bursts, muzzle flash winking like fireflies spite. Tracers arcsed lazy in the thin air, stitching the bomber's starboard engine. No Hollywood blaze, just a cough of black smoke, then the wing folded like wet cardboard. The Betty corkscrewed, her nose burying in the sea a mile below. Debris bloomed, a fuel slick igniting in sullen orange, swallowed quick by waves. Silence rushed back, profound as vacuum. Ernst circled once, the cockpit's green ghosts the only light. Toth scanned for stragglers, escorts scattering. No pursuit. Ruiz slumped in his harness, adrenaline ebbing to shakes. Splash one, Ernst reported to ground, voice even. Returning to base. No whoops, just the log. Time, position, ordnance expended. 1 kill, unseen, unheralded. Word hit Nodzab like a breeze through fronds, subtle, stirring. Marines in foxholes nursing M1 slick with dew scratched tallies on sandbag walls. Widow 1, Betty 0. Daylight pilots nursing hangovers in the mess fell quiet over Spam and Joe. Heard Ernst bagged one blind, one murmured. No visual, just poof. Skepticism fractured, fear took its place. Not of the dark, but of what lurked within. Japanese pilots, debriefing in Rabal's bunkers, traded whispers. Amerikansky Akuma. Devil planes that strike from nowhere. Tokyo's codebreakers puzzled over intercepts. No engine signatures, no gun flash reports. Just absences, bombers vanishing like smoke. The revelation spread, intercept by intercept. August nights over Biak, Ernst's wingman, Latcher Hub Smith in Predator, vectored onto a pair of G4Ms, codenamed Betty's Big Sisters. Toth's counterpart locked the lead at 15 miles, threading through a Thunderhead's clutter. Range 5. 3. The gunner waited, moonless sky a canvas of nothing burst. Tracers lacing the night. The first G4M yawed, tail shearing in a hydrant spray of avgas. The second jinked wild, diving for the deck, but the Widow followed, relentless. Ventral guns chattered. The bomber cartwheeled into the surf. Her crew's screams lost to static. Tense hunts followed. One patrol off Wolea Atoll. Zeros adapted, flying herringbone to mask the bombers. Toth sweated the scope, fingers blurring on azimuth knobs. Clutter heavy. Wait, brake right. Ernst rolled inverted, the world tumbling in instrument vertigo. A Zero flashed close, too close, its canopy a black oval. Pilot's eyes wide in the fleeting moon sliver. No shots climbed hard, oxygen burning his lungs. Discipline, he thought, leveling out. The radar cleared, Betty isolated, plodding alone. Ruiz's burst ended her. Engine nacelle blooming, plunge silent as a stone. Shock rippled through commands. In Brisbane, General Harman reviewed kill boards. 12 confirmed by September, no widows lost to fighters. These aren't planes, he told aides, maps rustling under his fist. They're scalp hunters. Northrop, in Hawthorne, clipped the cables to his wall, a mosaic of vindication. But the crews bore the weight, victories invisible, dangers unwitnessed. Ernst's log filled with no visual entries, morale a tightrope over exhaustion. Post-mission debriefs dragged, tired eyes tracing vectors on grease boards, Toth sketching echo patterns till dawn. Ruiz cleaned guns till his hands bled, the 50 casings warm as spent promises. Yet mastery bloomed in the burden. Crews synced like clockwork, pilots anticipating RO calls, gunners firing on probabilities. Kills climbed 20-30, Pacific skies emptying of night raiders. Japanese doctrine cracked, bombers routed daylight now, Zeros grounded for lack of fuel, Marines slept sounder, foxholes unscarred. The revelation wasn't in the flames, but the absence, raids dwindling, like echoes fading. In the hangars, whispers turned to awe. The Widow wasn't legend yet, just a ghost in the machine. But the dark had teeth now, and they bit deep. Enemies looked into the dark, and the dark looked back. Europe wasn't the Pacific's humid shroud. It was a scalpel's edge, cold, precise, laced with the ghosts of Spitfires fallen over the Somme. By D-Day plus 60, the Normandy beachhead clawed inland, but the night skies bled vengeance. Hitler's Vergeltumswaffen, V-1 buzz bombs, those pilotless harbingers with pulse jet coughs like chainsmokers' hacks. Launched from ski ramps in the Pas de Calais, they droned over the channel at 2,000 feet, low enough to hug the murk, fast enough at 350 miles per hour to outrun anything with propellers. London shuddered under their rain. 6,000 dead by autumn, hospitals hollowed, civilians in tube shelters whispering prayers to the drones' falter. Doodlebugs, the press dubbed them, but to the crews they were reapers. Unpiloted, unerring, engines stuttering like faulty clocks counting to doom. The RF owned the day hunts. Mosquitoes and Spitfires with spotter teams on cliffs, vectors barked over Tannoy. But night? The V-1s multiplied in the dark, ramps firing under blackout. Intercepts dwindled to lottery odds. One Mosquito clipped a buzz bomb's wing over Croydon, parachuting into the Thames as the contraption detonated mid-air. Command turned to the Yanks, 422nd NFS, shipped from Orlando's swamps to this rainy exile in May 1944. Ernst's crew arrived jet-lagged, Nightmare's crates splintered by U-boat dodges. Sussex was alien. Tea in Nissen tins, rationed bangers that tasted of sawdust. Pacific was jungle. Ernst muttered to Toth over Spam sandwiches in the mess. This is fog with teeth. Toth, scope tuner extraordinaire, nodded, polishing his slide rule. Same math, skipper, just colder vectors. Skepticism met them like a channel squall. Raft types, scarred by blitz nights, eyed the widows with patrician sneers. American barnstormers for buzzards, Wing Commander Ellis quipped at joint briefing, pipe smoke curling like V1 trails. Our havocs have the legs for it. Daylight generals, fresh from Big Week's bomber streams, piled on. These radar tubs? Fine for Japs hiding in palms, but Jerry's toys fly straight as arrows. Hap Arnold's memos arrived via courier. Terse, prove it or park 'em. Northrop, oceans away, wired encouragement. The night level's all. Use it. But the crews felt the weight. Exhaustion from transatlantic hauls, radomes cracked in rough landings, gunners like Ruiz nursing frost-nipped fingers from ventral chills. Training was baptism by deluge. Patrols over the Wash, where East Anglian mists turned cockpits to saunas of condensation. Ernst blind flew nightmare through cumulonimbus veils, gyrocompass his only god. Toth wrestled the SCR 720, upgraded to AI Makor X for Euroclutter, filtering sea return like a sieve for gold. V1 signature's unique, he briefed Ruiz in the hangar, scope traces glowing on a blackboard. Pulse jet echo, erratic like a heartbeat on laudanum. Lock at 3 miles, fire at 800 yards. Ruiz turret bound, practiced on drone targets. Radio plane OQ-2s, buzz mimics loosed from cliffside catapults. Guns barked into the gloom. Casings ejected hot, pinging off the fuselage like accusatory rain. Too slow, Ruiz thought, wiping brow sweat. One miss, and London's lit. The hunts began earnest in July as Peenemunde's ramps belched fire. Ground control at Ford Manor, codename Cat's Eyes, painted the board. Red pins for launches, scrawled from Ultra Decrypts. Scramble Black 1, bandits over Calais, track 090, Angels low. Ernst's voice steady as Ohio soil, Black 1 feet wet, climbing to 5,000. Throttles bit, Nightmare lumbered into the murk, props gnawing fog like gristle. The channel below was a void, destroyers' wakes faint phosphors, U-boat periscopes imagined in every wavelet. Todd's console flickered. Contact, single echo, bearing 120, range 15 miles, V1 profile, staccato return. Ernst banked starboard, the airframe groaning soft, de-icers puffing boots against rime. No escort zeros here. The Luftwaffe's Nighthawks, mosquito hunters themselves, were fuel-starved phantoms. Tension coiled like headset wire. The V1's drone infiltrated the cockpit, that infernal wing flutter, audible at 10 miles, growing to a hornet swarm. Ernst's mask misted. Moist English air beating inside, cold as accusation. Discipline the drift, he thought, trimming for intercept. Toth vectored precise. Aspect 70, closing 20 knots. Adjust 10 degrees right. Ruiz swiveled below, the turret's chill seeping through his flight suit, fingers numb on the stick. The dome offered panorama. Nothing but starless black, the sea a rumpled sheet far down. Silence before ambush. Engines idled to purr, radar pinging heartbeat soft. Then, the stutter. Buzz, buzz. The doodlebug's jet, a mechanical death rattle. Visual negative, Toth murmured. Range 4 miles, steady. Ernst dove shallow, altimeter spooling to 3,000. Wind moaned through struts, amplified by distance. Fear wasn't the bomb, but failure. One stuttered engine, one iced antenna, and the V1 plowed into Stepney, children pulverized in cots. The scope sharpened, blip swelling, erratic path weaving through flak holes. Lock, Toth breathed. Fire window opening. Ruiz's reticle quested, the buzz now a snarl clawing the ears. Fingers tightened, crack, 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 the dorsal quartet loosed. 50s thundering brief, recoil yanking the widow's nose a hair. Tracers lanced, lazy in the damp, incendiary beads stitching the V1's stubwing. Impact, surgical. The buzz bomb's plywood frame shredded, fuel vented in a whoosh, the pulse jet coughing final defiance before the bloom. Orange heart exploding silent, shards raining like confetti from hell. Ernst pulled up hard, the blast's backwash buffeting Nightmare's tail. No cheers. Just Toth scan, negative stragglers, RTB. Ruiz slumped, turret spinning idle, the dome starred with cordite residue. Splash confirmed, Ernst keyed ground. 1v1 down, position 51 to 10 north, 1 to 20 east. Log entry, timeout, fuel burn, ammo count. Perfect ambush, unwitnessed. Kills accrued like debts. August nights over the Thames estuary. Squadron patrols in Wolfpack, widows orbiting like satellites. Ernst's crew bagged 3 in a single sortie. First a ramp-fresh V1 warhead live, second a straggler, engine faltering over Margate, third a high flyer, vectored blind through thunderheads. Radomes cracked on rough recoveries, patched with bakelite tape in dawn's weak light. Exhaustion etched the crews. Toth's eyes ringed black from scope glare, Ruiz's hands trembling on triggers from cold soak. Mess hall talk turned confessional. Whispers of dreams where buzzes infiltrated sleep, doodlebugs diving eternal. "We're not hunters," one gunner muttered over tepid tea. "We're janitors, cleaning skies no one sees." But mastery answered the grind. September brought adaptation. V1s routed through cloud canyons, Luftwaffe Ju-88s prowling as decoys. One intercept off Ramsgate, Toth sifted clutter, a storm front's false echoes masking the real. Bogey spike, wait, twin-engine shadow, Ju-88 skipper, escorting buzzes. Ernst's yoke slicked with sweat, enemy with eyes. The Junkers climbed evasive, her Schrager music guns questing upward. Ruiz spotted first, bandit 6 high. Burst exchanged, tracers crossing like crossed swords, the Widow's ventral barking defiance. The Ju-Yod engine aflame spiraling into the drink. V1s scattered, picked off in the chaos. 2 down, clean kills, no losses. Ground crews tallied on hangar doors. 50, 75, 100, V1s denied London. Argument raged in daylight. RAF briefings devolved to shouting matches. Your tubs ice over at 20,000. Ellis barked, maps slapping tables. Ours thread the needle. Ernst, silent till pressed, slid recon photos across, kill sites marked, flak untouched. Night doesn't vote on speed, it demands sight. Generals wired Washington, yank radar wonders, effective but fragile. Northrop responded with upgrades, P-61B models inbound, chin turrets for low-level bite, de-icers beefed. Crews rotated Pacific vets like Ernst, their whispers seeding trust. Dark's a leveler, we own it now. Ambush perfected, patrols stretched to 4-hour loiters, fuel sipping on crews. One epic night, October 14, wave of 30 V1s, ultra-tipped. 422nd sortied 6 widows, scopes painting the horde like a meteor shower inverted. Ernst's nightmare claimed 4, methodical, silent, lock, stock, burst. The last, a cripple sputtering over Folkestone, Ruiz's fire shearing its gyro mere yards from cutoff. The buzz died. Silence fell, profound as absolution. London slept fractions deeper that dawn. The burden invisibilized victory. No medals pinned under spotlights, just cables to chafe, intercepts nominal. Exhaustion bred ghosts, crews hallucinating echoes in the mess. Toth tuning phantom sets in his cot, yet awe whispered through. Luftwaffe night logs, captured post-Normandy, raved of Schwarze-Wittwin, Black Widows devouring the dark. Hitler's ramps idled, fuel diverted to desperate jets. The channel's ghosts thinned. In war rooms, doubts lingered like pipe ash. But when blackout fell, arguments dissolved. The Widow spoke in fire, unseen, unyielding. In daylight they argued. In darkness, the Widow answered. War's endgame wasn't fireworks. It was attrition's whisper. Airfields clawed from coral, skies emptied of easy prey. By early 1945, the Pacific's night hunters had claimed their empire. B-29s firebombed Tokyo from Marianas bases, their contrails silver scars in moonlight. But the shadows still stirred. Kamikaze whispers over Okinawa, straggling G4Ms probing for weaknesses. The Black Widow, once mocked as Northrop's folly, prowled unchallenged. Kills tallied 1 in 27, confirmed conservative, across 2 oceans, no air-to-air losses. The enemy fled darkness itself, routing raids to suicidal days. Japanese pilots in captured diaries scrawled of Yurei Hikoki, ghost planes that struck without silhouette, vanished without echo. Ernst's squadron rotated to Iwo, the sulphurous rock a staging post for Tokyo runs. The island was no paradise. Ash-choked props, quakes rattled hangars. Crews lived in foxholes lined with B-29 drop tanks, malaria a constant itch. Skepticism had long evaporated. Mastery was routine now, etched in logbooks like scripture. Toth tuned scopes by feel, filtering volcanic clutter as easily as rain. Ruiz's bursts were poetry, minimal, maximal, 1 magazine per kill, casings collected for the brass's audits. Ernst flew with the economy of a man who'd seen too many dawns, not for glory, he thought, strapping in, for the sleep it buys. The final patrols were elegies. March nights over the volcano islands. B-29 streams lumbering homeward, bellies gutted by flak. Ground control at Saipan, voice strained by overload, vectored widows as shepherd dogs. Red leader, bandits at your 6. Recon birds low and slow. Ernst's response, copy, interrogating. Throttles eased, Moon-happy slipped into the black, her bulk a feather in the updraft. The air up here was crisp, stripped of humidity, moist masks a memory, replaced by the dry bite of stratospheric wind. Toth's console painted them. 2 Oscars, obsolete but eager, shadowing the bombers like jackals a herd. Range 20, aspect cold, diving to intercept. Ernst nodded into the void, yoke light as thought. Discipline defined the stalk. No hot pursuits, geometry ruled. Ernst computed closure in his head, vectors from Florida drills, refined by Pacific blood. The Oscars weaved evasive, but radar didn't blink. Lead at 2 o'clock low 8 miles, Toth murmured, ping steady as a metronome. Ruiz, in his dome, scanned the starfield. Negative visual, but they're there. Feel the props hum. Silence amplified the hunt. Engines idled to ghosts, slipstream a faint susurrus. Fear had transmuted, to a cold clarity, the awe of men who midwifed their own fate. They come for the fire we drop, Ernst thought. We end them before the spark. The lead Oscar filled the scope, blip sharpening to resolve. Ernst closed the gap, altimeter holding 18,000. High enough for the bomber's mercy, low for the kill. Solution, Toth breathed. Ruiz turret word, servos soft as a sigh. Fingers tightened on triggers, conditioned to the 50s kick. Burst, tracers arcing precise, incendiaries kissing the fighter's cowling. The Oscar shuddered, ailerons shearing in a spray of glycol mist. No blaze, just a glide, wings folding like prayer, into the sea's maw 20,000 feet below. The wingman jinked wild, diving for clouds, but Toth anticipated. Brake left, clutter trap. Ernst rolled gentle, the widow compliant as a thought. Second burst from ventral guns. The Oscar's tail bloomed, fuselage tumbling end over end, a comet's tail of debris. 2 splashes, Ernst reported, voice a flatline. Clean, resuming escort. No victory rolls, just the circuit, B-29s droning past like grateful elephants. Ground crews tallied it later, kill 126, 127. The last air-to-air of the Pacific War, unseen by all but 3. In Tokyo's bunkers, admirals puzzled over absences, recon flights ghosted, no word from the void. The Emperor's codebreakers chased phantoms. What devours our nights? Europe echoed the fade. In the Reich's death throes, 422nd widows over the Ruhr claimed final scalps. Me-410s, desperate interlopers amid the rubble. One April night near Kiel, a He-219 Uhu, owl of the Luftwaffe, stalked a mosquito intruder. But the widow turned tables, radar locking through flak murk. Pilots burst ended it, engines blooming twin suns, the Uhu spiraling into the Elbe. No witnesses save the crew, debriefed in damped Sussex Quonsets. The dark owned us. A captured German night ace confessed post-surrender. Your widows spun the web. Surrender came sudden as a scope blackout. August 6th, Hiroshima's mushroom clawed the sky. Daylight apocalypse. Nagasaki followed, twin to the horror. Ernst's squadron stood down on Iwo, props shrouded in canvas. The Emperor's voice crackled over shortwave. Capitulation. Crews gathered on the ash beach, radios tuned to Tokyo Rose's final dirge. No cheers, just the weight lifting, profound as silence after gunfire. Toth folded his slide rule. Ruiz polished his last casing. Ernst stared seaward, the horizon swallowing the sun. 127 lives, uncounted, he thought. Raids prevented, Marines slept, London breathed. Victory in the negative, peace unspooled ragged. Widows ferried home, moon-happy crated for stateside scrap, her redome cracked like an eggshell. Northrop watched her land at Hawthorne, a relic of his vindication. The brass, once scoffers, penned reports, P-61 architect of nocturnal dominance. But glory eluded. Aces got parades, night crews got musters. Ernst demobbed to Ohio farms, Toth to patent offices, Ruiz to Brooklyn shipyards. The plane, mothballed in boneyards, wing-sawn for aluminum pots. Tradition reclaimed the narrative. Daylight Mustangs, thunderbolts, thundering eternal. Yet echoes lingered, spectral. Korea's chilled skies, F-82 twin Mustangs, widow daughters with radar teeth hunting MiGs in MiG Alley. Vietnam's monsoons, F-4 Phantoms, all-weather ghosts tracing Northrop's blueprint, interceptors born of the night doctrine. Cold War's Iron Curtain, AWACS sentinels orbiting scopes painting ICBM ghosts, F-14 Tomcats with Phoenix missiles, discipline incarnate. every cathode glow, every ping, whispers of the Black Widow. She didn't just kill, she birthed the unseen war. Electronic veils, stealth silhouettes, battles won in code, not canon. Jack Northrop, graying in his all-winged dreams, clipped the obits. German night aces, Japanese raiders, all felled by his shadow. We honored the dark, he wrote in a letter yellowed by time, not with noise but necessity. The crews, scattered, met at reunions, 50s VFW halls, beers warm as memories. Ernst raised a glass, to the kills no one saw. Laughter, faint, eyes distant. Ghost legends now, their discipline the true legacy. Intellect over bravado, faith in the faint beep. The moral etched in ash and fog, the deadliest plane of night never sought glory, only advantage. In war the loud boast, the dangerous whisper, they mocked the darkness. The darkness answered with fire. True power isn't seen, it's felt. History celebrates noise. Victory here belonged to silence. Subscribe for more untold World War II brilliance.